Okay, today is Friday, October 27th, and we got some new Guild Wars 2 news. So for those who do not know, Guild Wars 2 did a video today called the November 28th Balance Preview live stream, where they unloaded a bunch of information about some changes coming to the game in the very near future, specifically on November 28th. However, they had a oopsie, and Roy already said that was his bad, he hit a wrong button, and during the recording, they recorded
some PvP as well.
Roy and nobody else.
I think loves talking about this.
So it's an hour and a half of Roy talking and then breathing and then talking and then breathing and chuckling, and the other two weren't recorded at all. Now, fortunately, I was able to watch Laura watch them, so I had to listen. I had to react to a reaction of a reaction. So yeah, you could watch me watch Laura watch them. It was pretty cringe all around, but in any case, it is done, and we have listened to all of that, and now we're about to go through the notes. Now, we've got the notes here on the forums. We've also got the notes here with tooltips on the wiki. I'm going to read them off the wiki because they've got the tooltips there. It makes them a little easier to understand, and I'll have links for everything down below if you want to reread it on your own time. Okay, starting at the top. General, as part of the balance update, we're tuning up some of the less impactful relics. We're also updating, using this update as an opportunity to update all relics with the fact system used for skilled tooltips. So real quickly, if I go to a random relic in game right now, Relic of Patha, fire bladed a nearby enemy after short delay, applying torment, increasing the next strike's damage against that target. What is the range of the blade? Is it a projectile? What is the duration of torment? What is the damage of torment? How many stacks of torment? How long is the duration of the buff for my next striking buff? All the tooltips of the relics are very poor right now. They do not have enough information, but they are going to be adding that soon. Relevant information such as range, radius, and numerical values will now be shown on relics. Relic of Leadership. Increase the number of conditions you convert to boons from 3 to 5 in PvE, 2 to 3 in PvP World v World. Relic of of Water. Increase the number of conditions removed from 1 to 2. Relic of the Centaur. Increase stability stacks granted from 1 to 2 in all game modes, and increase the stability duration from 2 to 3. Relic of Resistance now grants its effect to all allies if they're nearby. Relic of the Herald now also grants its bonus when applying boons to yourself. Increase the concentration per stack from 15 to 25, and it no longer has an internal cooldown, which is going to be great. Relic of the Monk. This relic no longer has an internal cooldown. This is awesome. Before, if you... the Relic of the Monk gives you a bonus to healing power based on how much if you've given out boons recently, but there was an internal cooldown. So yeah, it was best if you were playing a class that could like give a boon, give a boon, give a boon, give a boon, and then it would stack up. But if you were just like, blah, here's 20 boons, and then you were not able to give more, it would just get one stack and then fall off. So this will solve that issue for some classes. Relic of the Zephyrite, increase the base duration from 3 to 4. Relic of Vass no longer has an internal cooldown when triggered by elixirs. Reduce the stack duration from 30 seconds to 10. Stacks are now expended when striking an enemy and when attacks are negated. Increase the poison duration from 3 seconds to 5 in PvE. Relic of Patha, the dagger is now launched from the ending location and fires faster. The damage increase now remains for a duration instead of ending after the first hit, and reduce the duration of the damage increase from 10 seconds to 4, and increase the torment duration from 4 seconds to 6 in PvE. Relic of Ice now shoots ice at the nearest 5 enemies 3 times. Projectiles now inflict vulnerability, increase the chill duration from 1 second to 1.5, and increase the damage coefficient from 0.5 to 1.0 in PvE only. Alright, Elementalist. The effectiveness of power-based catalyst builds relies on empowered empowerment, which either grants the user the full bonus or none at all. We think that this disparity is too large, so we're updating the trait to always give you a lesser bonus, making it less punishing if you drop below the max number of stacks. Sword skills in the 3rd weapon skill slot are also getting improvements in competitive modes to make the weapon more appealing to players who aren't using the Weaver Elite specialization. Starting from the top, Flame Wheel, increase damage and Condi damage bonus from 10 to 15 in PvE. Crescent Wind, increase the crit strike chance from 10 to 15 in PvE. Ground Pound, reduce the cooldown from 30 to 20 seconds in PvE, and increase the power coefficient from 1.3 to 2.0 in PvE. Ring of Fire, increase power coefficient from 1.2 to 2.0 in PvE. Tidal Surge and Water Globe, reduce the cooldown by 5 seconds everywhere. Cauterizing Strike, increase the power coefficient against burning enemies from 1.6 to 1.8 in PvP and World v World. Aqua Siphon, increase base healing by almost double in PvP and World v World. Quantum Strike, reduce the cooldown from 18 seconds to 16 seconds in PvP World v World. Glyph of Elemental Power, reduce the cooldown from 30 to 25 in, I'm just going to say competitive modes from now on. Arcane Shield, reduce the cooldown to 35 seconds in all game modes. Tornado and Whirlpool, reduce the cooldown from 150 to 60 seconds in PvE. Whirlpool, underwater buffs, holy crap. So Tornado, pretty frequently used in PvE, good for knocking enemies off of nodes and stuff like that, but PvE it's almost never seen, so this is going to make it maybe more desirable in that game mode. Weaver, Aquatic Stance. This skill now also grants Endurance. Increase the base healing on activation from 2600 to 4k. Increase the base healing when striking an enemy from 573 to 650. Woven Stride. This trait now additionally removes a condition while gaining super speed or swiftness with a 3-second internal cooldown on PvE and a 5-second internal cooldown in PvP and World v World. Hammer, on Catalyst, they've fixed an issue that caused circular projectiles to occasionally lose their ability to strike enemies when you've refreshed their duration. Empowered Empowerment, they mentioned this earlier, this trait will now cause it to always be 50% more effective. Effectiveness at max number of stacks is unchanged. So this means that when you're below max, it will be more powerful than it was. Engineer changes. Rifle and pistol are both receiving general improvements to make them more compelling, with pistol filling the role of a hybrid damage offhand weapon to play alongside sword main hand and pistol main hand. We've also made some improvements for support-focused scrapper builds and reworked some of the passive trait triggers in Alchemy for more active gameplay. Alright, so Rifle Net Shot, that's Rifle 3, I believe, increased the casting time from 0.24 to 0.62. This will now inflict vulnerability in addition to immobilize, increase the power coefficient from 0.5 to 1.25 in PvE. Jump Shot now has a half-second evade at the beginning of the animation. So you could use this, in PvE when something, like a big red circle is about to hit. You could use this to not only avoid the big red circle, but also do some damage as you come back down. Static Shot, reduce the casting time from 0.4 to 0.2. Reduce the cooldown from 12 to 10 in competitive. Blowtorch, increase the minimum power coefficient from 0.33 to 1.0 in PvE only, and increase the max power coefficient from 1.0 to 2.0 in PvE only. So Blowtorch it does do some power damage, but its real winner is the condition damage. Like if you are full Condi and you use, I believe it's Pistol 4, Blowtorch, and you are at point blank range, because it does more damage the closer you are, it's over a 20,000 damage burn. But the power damage on it was never much to brag about, so they're increasing that power damage on the Blowtorch, as they said, to work better with like Sword Pistol as well as Pistol. Glue Shot, which is Pistol 5, increase the missile velocity from 900 to 1200. The skill is now a blast finisher and deals strike damage to enemies in the impact area with a power coefficient of 1.5. Reduced the cooldown from 20 seconds to 12 in PvE. That's awesome. A blast finisher on Pistol 5 with a 12-second cooldown, you could do a lot with that. Bandage Blast. So it's about to be changed. Let me tell you what it was. If you didn't play any form of Support Engineer, Bandage Blast was Med Kit 2. Your character would do like this with his arm, and bandages would come out, and they would come out in a 5 projectile spread. So, middle, slightly left, slightly right, way left, way right. They would fan out like that. However, it was like a shotgun mechanic. So if you did it right behind someone who was injured, all 5 could hit them, and it would be like, and it would take almost anyone back to full health. It was like a 10 to 15k heal. It was a massive heal, but it was very easy to avoid. It was kind of like trying to heal a Genji in Overwatch that's bouncing off the walls. If you run up behind someone and go bandage, and they step left, the whole thing misses. So what they have done is they've changed it to just target 5 nearby allies with bandages instead of firing them in a fan. Bandages will only hit their intended target unless that target's full health. I assume that means that if the target's full health, they could pass through them and then hit someone who needs the heal on the other side, which is how the old bandages worked. If you did Bandage Blast and the first person they hit was full health, they would pass through that person and hit someone injured on the other side. This is going to remove the ability to do the heal shotgun type thing, but it's going to make it way more reliable in most situations when people are moving around. I think it's a good change. Elixir B reduced the cooldown by 5 seconds. Toss Elixir B no longer has a chance to grant swiftness. So that leaves you with Stability, Fury, Might, or Resolution as the choices. Toss Elixir U reduced the cooldown from 32 to 25 seconds. Soothing Detonation increased the healing coefficient in PvP dramatically. Health Insurance increased outgoing healing bonus from 7 to 10% in PvP. Invigorating Speed will now also activate when gaining super speed. Transmute, this trait will now activate after using a heal skill instead of upon reaching a threshold of conditions. Emergency Elixir. This trait will now activate after using an elite skill instead of when being struck below a health threshold. I really don't like this one. So Emergency Elixir is drink Elixir E when you are below 33% health, and then it would give you a barrier and protection. It's called Emergency Elixir. It's supposed to activate in emergencies, but they're making it just trigger when you use your elite skill. So you use your elite, and then if this is not on cooldown, you get a barrier and a few seconds of protection. I find this one odd. Most of this stuff is great. This one I think is weird. HGH is a Grandmaster trait that adds a bit of might to all your elixir stuff. Adjusted the might from 3 stacks for 6 seconds to 2 stacks for 10 seconds in PvP and World v World. Scrapper. System Shocker. The barrier granted by this trait is now also applied to nearby allies. This is awesome. Disabling a foe grants you barrier. Your function gyro dazes foes when cast. So anytime that you hit someone with any sort of disable in apparently any game mode, you give barrier to your whole party. I think that's great. That's a neat change. And it's not something you're going to be able to keep up 24/7, so I don't think it's like OP or anything, but I think that it definitely makes you feel more like a team player. Mass Momentum, increase the stability stacks from 1 to 2, and increase the number of targets from 3 to 5. Expert Examination, this trait has been reworked. The function gyro grants protection to allies when summoned. Using a healing skill's associated tool belt skill grants protection to nearby allies. Okay, I really don't like this change, and I'll explain why. I played Heal Scrapper a lot after it got access to quickness, and then Heal Mechanist after that. I played Heal Scrapper for a solid between 6 months to a year as my main character. It was a lot of fun. It's in a rough place right now. The healing is still fine because it's got access to medkit, and all heal engineers, no matter what type they are, use the medkit. It also has function gyro, which is a incredibly good skill. Just, hey, go revive that guy with a 20-second cooldown. That's incredible. It's so good, and it feels good to use it. However, the problem is the boons. They need Blast Gyro plus doing, like when they start Blast Gyro, before it ends, they need a combo with like Shield 4, Elixir Gun, Blast thing, Medkit Blast Finisher 5, and then the Blast Gyro's Blast Finisher, maybe even throw mine to keep up might. It is very sweaty to keep up might with the Scrapper. Additionally, if they want to keep up prot, they need to use Shield 4 off cooldown, not save it for when you need it, Shield 5 off cooldown, not save it for when you need it, and carry around a Thumper turret, which that's a second utility slot. If they want to be a good healer, they need to have Elixir Gun on their bar, that's a third utility slot, and if they want to be able to give stability on demand, they need Bulwark Gyro, which is a fourth utility slot. And you can't have 4, you only have 3. So they need more utility slots than they can possibly have to have the same tools that some other healers have baseline. They need some of these boons just baked into their other skills, which brings us to this. They've added protection to Function Gyro, the Revive skill, and your F1 skill. Now, any support that cares about giving its team protection, the healing skill they're going to use is Medkit. And if they're Medkit, their F1 is their self-heal. Which brings us back to a meta where you have to burn your self-heal and your revive to keep up a boon. So that means that that Heal Scrapper is going to probably be really bad for fights like Bone Skinner, because you'll be able to heal other people for a good amount, but your self-heals are going to be crap because you keep burning your self-heal for a boon when the heal's not needed. So you're basically, you're like, here's your health and the party's health. You're keeping the party's health up until your health starts to break, and then you go down, and then everyone else dies after you do. Now, I hope I'm wrong about this, but this is the exact thing that happened when we had to use F1 off cooldown to keep quickness up. And they've finally gotten us away from that, but now we have to do it for protection. So I don't like it needs protection in some kind of Scrapper baseline thing, but I don't think it should be here. That's my reasoning. All right. Rapid Regeneration. Increase the swiftness base healing from 88 to 101 in PvP and World v World. Increase super speed base healing from 176 to 214 in PvP and World v World. Applied Force, the condition damage penalty from this trait has been removed. Increase the bonus power per stack of might from 20 to 40 in PvE. Blast Gyro cooldown reduced by 5 seconds in PvE. Bypass Coating reduced the cooldown by 10 seconds from 30 to 20 in PvE. Hollowsmith Spectrum Shield. The skill no longer has a reduced recharge when used above a heat threshold. Now grants stability when used. Reduce the cooldown from 30 to 20 seconds in PvE. Flash Spark, reduce the cooldown from 40 to 25 seconds everywhere. Mechanist, relic changes. When equipped, the following relic's effects will now activate when the mech's abilities fulfill their requirements, but affect the mech and the engineer separately, which means your mech can now use Relic of the Herald, Brawler, Scourge, or Aristocracy. Additionally, when equipped, the following relic's effects will now activate when the mech's abilities fulfill the requirements, but cooldowns are shared with the engineer. Relic of the Monk and Relic of Antitoxin. Now, Relic of the Monk, as mentioned earlier, gives you a bonus to heal. I can show it in the game right now. Hold on. So look down here at my buffs. I'm on my Druid right now. I'm going to pulse out some Alacrity, and look right there. You see that? That is Relic of the Monk. Now, I stop providing buffs, and it's gone. If you're not providing buffs for like 2 or 3 seconds, you lose it. So before, on Mechanist, if you weren't counting the mech and you were just counting the boons provided by the mech, he wasn't providing a boon every second or two. He was providing a boon like every 6 seconds. He'd use Mace 2, and that would provide some boons. But he would struggle to keep up Relic of the Monk for the healing bonus. If it's also counting the fact that the mech, every time it punches, it pulses Might, and also it's constantly pulsing Alacrity with Barrier Engine, the Mechanist, the support Mechanist will easily be able to appreciate Relic of the Monk at full power. So that's a good change for them. Mechanical Genius. For a short period of time, the effect will remain active even after the mech moves out of range of the engineer. It's a step in the right direction. I wish Mechanical Genius was just gone. It feels bad to use. Like, the fact that when the mech gets more than, a certain range from you, it just, it does this. It just becomes bad. I feel like that design is silly. Like, Ranger pets don't do that, thank God. So I don't like this trait at all. This is a little better than it was. Rectifier Signet, that's the healing signet, reduce the pulse healing from 142 to 115 in PvP. This is a very powerful signet, especially if you're running, I think it's J Drive. I might have the name wrong, but it's the trait that makes it to where your signets give the passive effect even when they're on cooldown. Very powerful because it's just every second you're healing. Yeah, and your mech. You and your mech are healing every second in PvP, plus when you use activate it for the big heals. They've had to nerf this many times. It's a very good skill. Superconducting Signet, reduce the burning duration from 3 seconds to 1 in PvP. I'm not surprised by this. Superconducting Signet is, for those who don't play mech, it's when the mech runs at you and then it gets like a bunch of green lightning around its feet on the ground, and there's a big circle of pain around it. Now, the reason for it is like too strong. And the reason I say that was not because of the damage, but the time. When you let's say you step into a Poison Ranger's Viper's Nest, it'll build up, 10,000 or more poison damage on you, but it takes 16 seconds to do all the damage. So it's doing less than 1k damage per second on average. If you're in a superconducting signet, it does like 10,000 damage over like 3 or 4 seconds. It's just, if you don't cleanse it, you're just gone. It just does the damage so rapidly. Also it does a lot of conditions. It does like burning and what does it do? Hold on, we can just get a full list here. It does burning and confusion and vulnerability and power damage, all of that. And it's a combo field. I didn't even know it was a combo field. So it just does the damage so rapidly that's the problem. It also makes it, if you're running the sigils that increase the burn duration, it almost always you get the full effect on superconducting just because of how quickly. Look, it takes 3 seconds to do the full damage. I'm not surprised to see this get toned down because just of how rapidly it works. Okay, Guardian changes. A support-focused Firebrand is receiving a few smaller improvements in PvP to make it a competitive pick. We've also tuned up a few of Guardian's defensive tools alongside some improvements to Hammer, including additional burst damage potential with Banish, now refreshing Mighty Blow when striking an enemy. First, Symbol of Protection, reduce the casting time from 0.9 to 0.7 seconds. Zealot's Embrace, reduce the casting time from 1.2 to 0.94 seconds. Increase the additional hit barrier from 225 to 625. Increase the power coefficient from 1.5 to 2.25 in PvE only. Banish on Hammer, this skill now recharges Mighty Blow when striking an enemy. So very similar to Ranger's Maul and Hilt Bash. Increase the number of targets hit from 1 to 3. Strengthen Numbers, this trait has been reworked and named Redemption. Cast Lesser Litany of Wrath whenever you use Virtue Skill 3. Lesser Litany of Wrath will last for 3 seconds. Yes, Palmesia, I do have the link. Hang on, I'll give it to you. That's it right there. Where was I? Might of the Protector, increase the might duration from 6 to 9 seconds in competitive. Dragon Hunter changes. Shield of Courage, reduce the cooldown from 50 to 45 seconds. Piercing Light. This trait has been reworked and renamed Hunter's Premonition. Gain Aegis whenever you use a trap skill. So might be worthwhile to space your traps out and not just hit them all at the same time if you're trying to get the most out of Aegis uses. Defender's Dogma will now also give you 180 Vitality, so a little bit of sustain increase. They did mention in the video they were trying to increase Guardian sustain just a little bit across the board. Pure of Sight increased the minimum damage bonus from 5 to 10% in PvP only. Firebrand. Loremaster decreased page generation interval from 6 seconds to 5 seconds in PvE. So that's a slight buff to how fast you're getting your pages. Swift Scholar trait no longer has an internal cooldown. Increase the quickness duration from 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds in PvP and World v World. Chapter 1's Searing Spell will now increase Vuln stacks from 2 to 4 in PvP. Ashes of the Just will now also give 5 stacks of Might to nearby allies for 8 seconds. That's one thing that I don't main support Firebrand, but I have played it a little bit, and it always felt weird keeping Might up as a Firebrand when you compare it to like some of the other, when I play Mechanist or Druid, it's just much more. I mean, it's nowhere near as bad as Scrapper, but it feels clunky on Firebrand compared to those other two. So this, I think, will help them out with that a little bit. Chapter 2 Daring Challenge increased the cooldown from 8 seconds to 15 and reduced the page cost from 2 to 1 in PvP. Willbender. Conceited Curate will now give 180 Vitality, again on the topic of the sustain across the board. Roiling Light, the skill now grants resistance instead of swiftness. All right, Mesmer. Our goal for Mesmer in this update is to improve the set of tools available to support Mesmers. We've made larger changes to Chaos and Inspiration specializations to provide better access to certain boons and improved healing capabilities. First, Axe Clones no longer perform an attack chain and instead will only use Lacerating Chop. So I don't know how this is going to change the DPS of the clones. I can tell you from the last time I played my Mesmer was when I made the low intensity builds. And I remember in that video, I had 3 Axe Clones in the background beating on the dummy while I was doing the /talk emote in front of the camera. And the clones were doing 11,000 damage per second, and I was emoting. I was literally not attacking, but I was doing 11,000 damage per second. So Axe Clones are very strong. I don't know how this is going to affect them, but they are getting changed. So they will no longer do attack chains and instead use Lacerating Chop. Lacerating Chop now applies Bleed and Torment for 3 seconds when used by clones. Lingering Thoughts reduce ammo recharge from 8 seconds to 6 in PvE and 12 to 10 in competitive. Axes of Symmetry reduce cooldown from 10 to 8 in PvE and 15 to 12 in competitive. Prestige reduce cooldown from 30 to 20 in PvE. I'm so glad they didn't reduce the cooldown in competitive because that's a very strong skill. Phantasmal Mage reduced the cooldown from 30 to 20 in PvE and from 30 to 25 in World v World. Phantasmal Warlock. This Phantasm summoned by this skill will now inflict Torment instead of vulnerabilities. That'll be a DPS increase because your group's probably already got max vuln. Ether Bolt increased the Torment duration from 2 to 4 in PvE. Ether Blast increased Torment duration from 3 to 6 in PvE. We're looking at Scepter stuff now, I believe. Illusionary Counter reduced the cooldown from 8 to 6 in PvE. Counter Spell will now inflict 5 stacks of Confusion for 7 seconds in PvE. So if you try to do a counter and you mess it up, you do still get something out of it with these Confusion stacks. Confusing Images reduces the cooldown from 12 to 9 in PvE. Null Field reduced the cooldown from 35 to 45 in World v World. Phantasmal Disenchanter reduces the number of boons removed from 2 to 1 in World v World, so a little nerf there. Metaphysical Rejuvenation. So we're talking traits now, not skills. Myzen on YouTube says Muck needs a 3rd YouTube channel called Mucklook Reads. Lol. Funny enough, like these news videos are some of the most successful ones on my channel aside from the guides. Illusionary Defense has been reworked. It will now grant protection to nearby allies when you shatter. Protection duration scales based on the number of shattered clones. So it gives Mesmers another way to provide protection to their team. Chaotic Transference has been reworked. Whenever you grant a Chaos Aura to yourself, you also give it to nearby allies. When you grant a Chaos Aura to an ally, you also grant them regen. So very cool use of auras. Feels a little Tempest-esque, but not quite the same. Illusionary Membrane has been reworked. You gain Chaos Aura when you shatter skill 2. So, if you have both of these, you gain Chaos, and then the whole team gets Chaos, and then the whole team gets regen. Deal increased Condi damage when you have Chaos Aura. Bountiful Disillusionment. The additional boon based on which shatter skill you use is now also given to all allies. Distortion now grants stability instead of regen. So right now, the shatters, depending on which shatter you use, you can give 5 might or vigor or fury or regen, which will become stability or resistance. let's see, where was I? Sympathetic Visage. This trait now also transfers conditions from nearby allies to summoned phantasms. So another way to remove conditions from teammates. Illusionary Inspiration. This trait has been removed to the minor Grandmaster slot, replacing Healing Prism. This trait now increases outgoing healing in addition to its previous effect. Restorative Illusions. This trait has been moved to the Grandmaster tier, so it's swapped with Illusionary Inspiration. The healing and condition removal effect will now also affect nearby allies. Another Condi cleanse for your team, Mesmers. Ego Restoration. This trait has fills the master slot that was previously held by Restorative Illusions. Create a clone after you use your heal skill. I believe it had... I don't see it here. I think that one might have had a 10-second cooldown because of the healing mantra. Let me see. What was that called? Ego Restoration? Hold on. Ego Resto. There's no mention of it here. It might have been on a slide during the show. There was something that they added a cooldown on because the mantra could have abused it. Temporal Enchanter increased the super speed duration from 2 to 3 seconds. Increased resistance from 2 to 3 seconds to PvE and PvP. Increased AoE. Mental Defense. This trait has been reworked. Distortion will now grant resistance and stun break all nearby allies. Probably 5 nearby allies. AoE stun break. The Pledge. This trait no longer reduces the cooldown of torch skills, but it increases the burning stacks from 1 to 2. Compounding Power. This trait no longer increases Condi damage attribute, and instead increases outgoing damage from conditions by 2 per stack. Malicious Sorcery. This trait has been reworked. Confusion you inflict will have increased duration. When you evade an attack, inflict confusion on the attacker. Mirage Mirrored Axes will no longer reduce the cooldown of axe skills and will no longer generate phantasmal spinning axes with mirror strikes, but it increases the torment inflicted by the phantasmal seeking axes from 1 stack for 4.5 seconds to 2 stacks for 3 seconds. And Santher Glass. This skill now removes immobile condition. Hang on. You do a CMC impression. All right, Necromancer. We've focused on improving some of the Necromancer's less utilized skills and traits. We've also swapped the position of Terror and Parasitic Contagion traits in the Curse's specialization to allow more trait selection flexibility for fear-focused condition builds. Well of Blood. Increase the pulse healing almost double in competitive modes. Now, keep in mind that to receive that healing, you have to stand in a circle on the ground, which is tricky to do in competitive modes, so I think this is entirely fair. Life Transfer. The skill now inflicts bleeding when striking an enemy. That is, I think, a Core Shroud skill. Which one is it? That's Core Shroud 4. Hey, buddy, what's up?
I'm good.
Is it bedtime?
Yeah.
Okay, chat, give me just a second. I'm going to tell the boy goodnight. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Let's see. Signet of Vampirism increased the base active healing from 4,900 to 5,700. Increased the base active lifesteal healing from 470 to 600. Plague Signet. Reduce the cooldown from 35 to 25 seconds in PvP and World v World. Reduce the number of conditions transferred from 4 to 3 in PvP and World v World. So, again, they said during the video they're trying to buff a few skills that they hardly ever see used in PvP and World v World game modes to make them slightly more appealing and see what happens. Well of Power. Reduce the cooldown from 40 seconds to 35 in competitive. Terror. This trait is now the Grandmaster trait. Increase base healing from 444 to 555 and increase the condition damage scaling from 0.4 to 0.55. Parasitic Contagion has moved to Master, so they swapped. Master of Corruption. This trait now applies vulnerability instead of blindness when using consume conditions. Soul Comprehension. This trait now also grants life force upon entering Shroud form based on the number of active Death's Carapace stacks. And Deadly Strength also increases Condi damage per stack of Death's Carapace. Reaper Augury of Death is getting a little bit of love all around. Increase the base lifesteal from 138 to 172. Increase the lifesteal power coefficient from 0.01 to 0.0125. Increase the base lifesteal healing from 125 to 156. And increase the lifesteal healing coefficient from 0.02 to 0.025. Blighter's Boon. This trait now always heals and grants life force regardless of whether the Necro's in Shroud form. So they talked about this one for a bit, and they said they didn't like that you got some value in Shroud and some value in not Shroud. They wanted it to just give you decent value in both states, so now it just does both. Reduce the base healing from 197 to 85 to compensate. Scourge. Feed from corruption. Reduce the base barrier from 1000 to 750 and the healing coefficient from 0.5 to 0.25 in PvP. So massive healing coefficient nerf to that skill in PvP. Demonic Lore reduces the torment damage bonus from 33% to 20% in PvP only. Harbinger Elixir Bliss reduced the cooldown from 32 to 25 in competitive modes. They said that this stun break skill was not getting used much, so they wanted to make it a little more desirable and see if that made it better. Ranger. So during the show, they said there was so much information on what they did to Ranger pets that they just showed a little tiny bit of it during the show, and they said check the notes. So here we are. We're here to read the notes. That's the Cleanse Elixir. Oh, my bad. I welcome the correction. The Cleanse Elixir, not Stun Break Elixir. Okay, so pets are the focus of this update's Ranger changes. We've made changes to many underperforming pet skills to better solidify the identity of each family and increase the number of viable pet choices, such as adding a stun to the polar bear's icy roar and causing bird family's quickening screech to remove movement and pairing conditions. So really quickly for my non-Ranger friends out there but who might have an interest in this, these are the Ranger pets we have to choose from when we're picking the pets to use. These are for just kind of like skins from Guild Wars 1. These aren't actually different from what we already have available here. Now, there are some here, for example, like MOAs. There's 5 MOAs in the MOA family. They each have 3 skills. 2 of them are the same for all MOAs. Like, they all have the same skills over here, but the skill on the far left will be different based on which MOA you click on. Now, that said, there are some families of pets that are never used. Spider and Devourer, for example, are not really great anywhere. They're like bad at everything. Bear, maybe an open world. Some of the cats are bad. The hyena is in a weird place. It actually its F2 summons a second hyena. You get 2 pets for the price of 1. But total, they do 100 DPS. I've tested this. They're very bad, and they haven't been changed in like 10 years. So there's a lot of stuff here. Like the Wallow's not used for anything. There's a lot of stuff here that could get some love, and let's go over this. So I know some of what's in here, but not all of it. General, all basic pet attacks are now affected by quickness. So there was a patch note, like I think for many years, for some reason, cats were not affected by quickness. No one knows why, but that bug was in the game for years. So I think this is them saying like, yeah, whoops, it's fixed. Let's see. Pet skills that affect allies do not count the pet they originate from in their target cap. So if you use a tiger to give your group Fury, it's not going to give Fury to the tiger and then 4 more people. It's going to give it to the whole group. So that's a good change. Okay, Bear family. Members of this family now have 1200 healing power. Slash is getting about, just to save time, I'm gonna condense this a little bit. Slash is getting a bit of a damage buff. Bite, reduce the cooldown by half. Increase the base healing dramatically, like triple, and increase the healing power multiplier by double. Bite is a skill that bears use, they just spam it whenever it lights up, and it's a bit of damage and a bit of healing for them, but it's going to be made better. Defy Pain, reduce the cooldown from 45 to 30 seconds. The pet will now use this skill more frequently. Defy Pain, I think this makes them invulnerable for a little bit, doesn't it? You take no damage for a few seconds. Yeah, so it's like Signet of Stone. Poison Cloud, that is on that one sickly looking bear, Morello. Reduce the cooldown from 35 seconds to 25. Enfeebling Roar, reduce the cooldown from 40 to 25 and increase the power coefficient by double. Reduce the weakness duration from 10 to 4 and reduce the radius from 600 to 360. Icy Roar, Polar Bear, it reduced the cooldown from 45 to 30. This will now stun in addition to previous effects. Reduce the radius from 600 to 360. So really, I'm curious, after they make the change, what is the duration of the stun and what is the cast time of the roar? Because there are some pets that the cast time of their skills, like here's one, that are 3 seconds. You're not going to land an Icy Roar on someone if the bear has to do a 3-second long animation, but this could be cool. Rending Maul increases power coefficient from 0.5 to 0.67, increase the bleeding per hit from 1 stack to 2 stacks. I don't even know off the top of my head which pet that is. Oh, that's the Arctodus. That's the Arctodus's F2. Okay. Bite, increase the power coefficient. Bite again. What? We already looked at Bite. Maybe one of these is the Soul Beast Merge Bite. Increase power coefficient, increase healing multiplier. All right. Birds. Where do we find these notes? Ethan, hang on, I got you. I'll link it into the chat. All right, bird family swoop increase the stack of vulnerability from 1 to 5. It decreased the vulnerability duration from 12 to 6. So that's just like an extra attack that they do. Quickening screech. This is a weird one. So quickening screech, when a bird uses this, they effectively fly around in a large circle and do a long animation and then give pulse out swiftness. But it's a huge DPS loss having the bird do this. Now, if you're untamed, you could turn it off if you want to, or use it on, but if you're like a druid or a soul beast that's not merged with your pet at that moment, they just stop attacking and do this. And sometimes you're like, stop doing that, just hit the thing. So they, one, unless if you're untamed, you can't control when this is used. They just spam it whenever they wish. And now it's going to remove crippled shield and immobilize, which is cool, but again, it doesn't happen when you want it to. It just happens when the bird feels like it. So kind of odd, but okay. I would like to see the animation be made much faster. Okay, blinding slash. That's a specific bird. I think one of the ravens. Increased power coefficient by a bit. Chilling slash. That is the what's the icy bird? The owl, I think. Juvenile owl. Yeah. Increase the power coefficient by a bit. Lacerating slash. That's the bleed one. Increase the cooldown from 6 seconds to 20. Oh, dang it. So this was always troublesome. There was one specific pet in the game that was very problematic, and it was the hawk. And if you look, this skill has a 6-second cooldown. And the thing is you can get traits that happen when you click F2. And this, of all the pets, had the shortest cooldown of any F2. So if you had like, anytime you press F2, your enemy gets hit with weakness. This guy could do it every 6 seconds. Whereas like some of the bears could do it once every 60 seconds. And it's always been kind of like, this skill would be overpowered if I use it with a hawk. So they're saying no more of that. It wasn't something that was super abusive, but it was definitely kind of like cheesy in the right circumstances. So they're increasing the cooldown, increase the power coefficient in all game modes, and increase the bleeding it does. Brash slash will replace lacerating slash, which will slash the foe and inflict weakness. This is odd. So they're buffing lacerating slash and then replacing it. Swoop, increase the power coefficient slightly. Quickening screech, increase the cooldown, and it removes crippled shield and immobilize, stuff like that. So again, maybe this is the soul beast one because it's up here too. All right, canines. And for some reason, the hyenas and I think in real life, hyenas aren't canines. Whatever. Moving on. Juvenile hyena, increase the power coefficient dramatically. Remember I said that they do like 100 DPS, and I tested this? They're doubling their power. This pet now has the ferocious type. Juvenile Crichton Drakehound is now versatile. If you play Ranger, you know what that is. If you don't play Ranger, it affects their stats, and it affects, if you merge with it, it affects what your F3 does. All right, bite damage increased, brutal charge and PvE has reduced the cooldown. That's a damage and a knockdown. Intimidating howl on canines increased the power coefficient. Chilling howl reduced the cooldown from 30 to 20 and increased the power coefficient in all game modes. That could be cool in battles in PvP because it basically emits chill for 3 seconds. So just throwing a wave of chill from I think it's the Ice Wolf. What is it? Mine's named Moon. It's the Alpine Wolf. Regenerate, which is of course the Fernhound, reduced the cooldown from 25 to 20, reduced the regen duration from 10 to 6, and increased the base healing from 1,000 to 2,600. I actually don't like this, and I'm going to explain why. If a young druid is using the Fernhound to help them heal, having it have a 20-second duration means it's going to have a 16-second duration with alacrity. And if you do that, it's going to have a shorter... sorry, I said duration. I meant cooldown. With alacrity, if the Fernhound F2 has a shorter cooldown than Invigorating Bond, it's not going to trigger Protection and Vigor on the party on every use. It'll trigger it on every other use. Because this stupid trait is not affected by alacrity, but the skills that it buffs are. So you have to have something with like a 25 to 30 second cooldown before alacrity in order to have this activate every time you hit F2. So this is actually kind of cool sometimes, but bad if you're using traits that support it. Howl of the Pack, this is the skill on the hyena that summons a second hyena. But again, they did 100 DPS. Reduce the cooldown from 45 seconds to 30. Increase the number of summoned allies from 1 to 2, but reduce the duration down to 15 seconds. So with 50% uptime, you'd have 3 hyenas. Summoned allies will no longer spam Brutal Charge. Before, it had the charge ability that all the dogs have, which was like a knockdown, because they didn't want 3 dogs knocking you down constantly. They showed it. It was pretty cool. Roy went up to a target dummy and activated it, and then he had 3 hyenas attack the thing, and he was shooting a bow. And then after 15 seconds, the 2 extras went away. Terrifying Howl, that is the fear from the wolf. Reduce the cooldown from 45 to 30 seconds PvE and 45 to 35 in competitive, but increase the power coefficient by over double in PvE. Devourer family, which has not been useful in any game mode in years. Twin Darts attack, increase the power coefficient by almost double in PvE, but no longer has a chance to poison, but it will now bleed enemies it strikes. So I think that is reduce the chance to poison, which was like 10%. But now it always bleeds. If so, that's awesome. There's not a lot of pets that do a condition on every attack, and this is now one of them. Increased velocity. Devourer Retreat. It's a skill where if something gets in melee range of the Devourer, it dives underground and backs up and comes up like 10 feet away. Reduce cooldown from 20 to 15. The activation time of the skill has been greatly reduced. It had a long animation. The skill will no longer be used at full health. That's kind of cool. Good quality of life there. Poisonous Cloud, reduce the cooldown from 30 to 25, increase the poison duration from 4 to 6, and increase velocity. This is also kind of cool for a combo field, because, you know, anytime you shoot a combo field, no matter how weak it may be, even if it's from a pet, lots of people can just suddenly do a whole bunch of poison combos and stuff, so it's lots of damage unexpectedly. Rending Barbs, reduce the cooldown from 30 to 20, and increase the power coefficient from 0.2 to 0.3, increase the bleeding duration from 5 to 8, and increase the velocity. I need a reminder on this one. What is this? Rapidly launch projectiles that bleed your target 6 times. Gotcha. Okay, so that's from specifically the Lash Tail Devourer, so just one type of Devourer had that. Poison Barbs, before it would shoot a bunch of poison darts in an arc that would land on the enemy. Reduce the cooldown from 30 to 20, increase the power coefficient a little bit, increase poison stacks by a lot, and poison duration from 2 seconds to 6. It will now pierce, but can only hit a target once. So first it'll hit an enemy, then it can go through and hit other stuff. Drake family. These are like the big lizards. Cloud sends you. Thank you for the tier 1 sub, buddy. I appreciate that. Bite. Increase the power coefficient by almost double, but in PvE only. Now causes the pet to move slightly from its initial position. I'm guessing it's like a step in, because it had a problem where, like, a lot of the pets, if you've got an enemy running and the pet's chasing them, and then the pet pauses to do like an animation, the enemy keeps moving and the pet like almost always misses. So I think this is to maybe give the pet a better chance at biting a moving target. Chomp, increase base healing from 965 to 1200. Similar to the Bear Bite, it's just a hit with like some lifesteal. Increase the healing power from 0.15 to 0.5, so over triple. Increase the number of targets from 3 to 5 if it cleaves. Tail Swipe, reduce the cooldown from 24 seconds to 16 in PvE. Fire Breath, so this is specifically the Red Lizard, it reduces the cooldown from 30 to 20 PvE and from 30 to 25 in competitive. Increase burning duration from 1 to 3 seconds. I don't see it here. They did mention on a slide during the broadcast that the Ranger Lizards were going to get the cone of their breath widened so it's easier to hit enemies. So that is applicable to this area right here. Insect Swarm, I believe that's from the Marsh Drake. Reduce the cooldown from 30 to 20 in PvE and from 30 to 25 in competitive. Reduce the power coefficient from 0.25 to 0.2 in competitive, and increase the poison duration from 3 to 4 seconds. Insect Swarm is a decent one because it looks like a stream of bugs coming out of the thing's mouth, but it bounces around like a chain lightning. It's not just like a cone. So it's a lot easier for this one and the Lightning Drake's Breath to actually hit targets that are moving around in PvP than it is the ones that just stop into a cone and people have already moved out of it before it even started. Frost Breath, reduce the cooldown from 25 to 20, increase chill duration by a half second. Lightning, and that's probably half second per application because the breath does multiple applications. Lightning Breath, the other one that's good for moving targets. This was the popular Drake for PvP. Reduce the cooldown from 30 to 20 in PvE and 30 to 25 in competitive, but reduce the power coefficient slightly in competitive. Sonic Shriek. Reduce the cooldown from 30 to 25 to 20 in PvE and increase the confusion stacks per hit from 1 to 2. Random fun fact, the Ranger, the only way it can make a chaos field or ethereal field, whatever the proper name is for it, is to be using the lizard that does the sonic shriek underwater. It's underwater skill. It's the reef drake, makes a chaos field, and then they can do mesmer combos. Chomp again, probably for Soul Beast. It's basically the same as the Chomp earlier. More damage, more healing. Tail Swipe, increase the power coefficient from 1.1 to 1.3. I assume all game modes. Tail Swipe was already up here, so I don't know if this is Soul Beast or the normal Tail Swipe. Tail Swipe has been nerfed a couple times because in PvP there was that there was a crazy combo where people could like swap pets, get 40 buffs, have the pet Tail Swipe, boom, it does like 10k. If you've PvP'd in the last a couple years, you've probably seen it at some point. So I don't know which one that this is in reference to. All right, feline family. So kitty cats. Slash no longer applies vulnerability. I think that's the auto attack on all cats. I'm double checking. Yes, it is. So their auto attack would do vuln. So they would, just by having the cat attacking, they would keep up like at least 5 stacks of vulnerability. So kind of surprised to see that go. Bite, the skill now applies 5 stacks of vuln for 6 seconds. So they've just moved it all to the bite. Maul, increased power coefficient by double. Maul is something that pretty much all the pets have. It's right here, and it's a bit of damage and also bleeding on a 16-second cooldown, and they're increasing the power damage of it by quite a bit. Mighty Roar, reduce the cooldown from 25 to 20, increase might stacks from 5 to 8 PvE, reduce the radius from 600 to 360, decreased the casting time. All right, this is awesome. So ever since Soto came out, many druids, and there's many ways to play druid, but one of the ways to play druid is very reliant on the jungle stalker, because they made it to where they reduced how many might stacks we grant from doing our astral skills. So we had to get that might somewhere else if you want 25 stacks of might. Well, one of the ways to do that is use the jungle stalker, because his F2 grants 5 stacks of might to nearby allies. So he could just be responsible for keeping up 5 stacks of might. However, it was annoying because if you look at the cast time, it's 3 freaking seconds. He's like, and then he spent a lot of time not attacking. And it really sucked if the group was moving, because it's like you're all moving, he would stop and start screaming, and they'd all move out of it before it went off and gave them their boons. And if you also look, he's also responsible because of some traits giving protection, vigor, and 5 stacks of might, so all of that would miss. So it would be very nice if the cooldown of that, or sorry, not cooldown, the casting time of that is reduced to something reasonable. So would love to see it. I'm wondering how much the casting time is going to be reduced. Increase the might stacks from 5 to 8. That means your healer might have to bring less other crap to generate the might. That's good. This here concerns me again for the same reason I said earlier. So Invigorating Bond, 20-second cooldown, not reduced by alacrity. This 25-second cooldown with alacrity, it's still 20 or more. So this will proc Invigorating Bond every single time it's up. If they reduce the cooldown of this, but not this, you will not get as much protection and vigor from your druid. Very annoying. Or you'll have to get it somewhere else. So, would very much like
whoop, whoop, 20 months down, almost 2 years muck luck dancing,
Hey,
muck
Robot
luck
Ninja,
dancing.
thank you, buddy. So, I'm concerned about that. We'll see what happens. Okay. Rending Pounce reduces the cooldown from 30 to 20, reduce the bleed duration from 10 to 6. A little bit of a, reduce cooldown, but nerf also. Icy Pounce, reduce the cooldown from 30 to 20, no nerf. Furious Pounce, increase the cooldown from 10 to 20. That's the Tiger one. The Tiger one can pounce so often. Increase the power coefficient from 1.0 to 2.0. Now, I'm curious about that. The Tiger one is the newbie druid's method of keeping Fury on their party. Currently, with max concentration, it's 11 seconds of Fury on a 10-second cooldown. So this is going to make it 11 seconds of Fury on a 20-second cooldown. However, to be fair, there are other ways of generating Fury, such as Warhorn 5. So I think that if they're relying on the Tiger to give Fury, they will still have some options. It should still be fine. Stalk, that's the Panther. Let's see, Tiger's Fury skill has doubled cooldown and won't cover 100% uptime anymore. Yeah, but again, you've got Warhorn 5. You could use Spotter. Like, Spotter is 60% uptime on Fury all by itself. So if you're using Warhorn 5 or Spotter with a Tiger, you should be fine. Or all three if you really don't have any concentration gear. All right, Stalk, that's the Panther. The Panther can stealth. You don't see it used much, but the Panther can stealth like a thief can. Reduce the cooldown from 24 to 20. This now applies stealth rather than the stalking effect. Damage bonuses from this skill now last 6 seconds, even if the pet is revealed. So I believe when it comes out of stealth, it does a damage bonus. So that's what that's talking about. Phase Pounce. Okay, Phase Pounce, I want to love it, but it's really freaking weird, and I'll show you why. So what Phase Pounce does, it's added onto the White Tiger, which a lot of people know it because it is a way for the Druid to give Aegis to their team. Phase Pounce teleports to the target, gives them a good smack, and then teleports backward to the starting location. So here's what happens. You're running it toward an enemy to start the fight. Your Tiger teleports in, hits him, teleports back, and then walks in, and then hits him some more. Now, let's say you're already in melee. The Tiger will hit, Phase Pounce, teleport backwards for some reason, walk back forward, and then go back to attacking. So he constantly makes himself teleport back and walk back in. And because of Phase Pounce, he does less damage than every other cat. Because he forces himself to walk in constantly. I don't know why. It's like it's a neat skill, but in execution, it's all messed up. However, nothing that they're changing is going to affect that behavior. They're reducing the cooldown, increasing the bleed stacks, and increasing the bleed duration from 5 to 10. Unless this damage bonus is substantial, him spending more time walking back into the fight is going to make his damage go down. Still good for Aegis, but not anything outside of that at the moment. Savannah Strike. Savannah Strike is actually, some of you may remember, one of my really old guides when I was first starting content creation was called the Fuzzy Missile build. And it was all about pets that could guaranteed hit their target, and you just keep yeeting them at the enemy. One of them was the Cheetah, which mine's name is Yida. And Savannah Strike is a Shadow Strike. Shadow Step Strike, like what thieves can use. It will connect most of the time, even if they're behind a wall, if they're on another platform. The downside is the Cheetah's very fragile, so it can like pour it in and then just get blendered by a Guardian or a Weaver or something, but it would connect. It was reliable in that aspect. So Savannah Strike is a move that near and dear to my heart. Has got its cooldown reduced, increase the power coefficient slightly, and increase swiftness duration slightly. Blinding Roar, I think that's the Sand Lion, reduce the cooldown from 35 to 20 seconds. All right, MOAs. Members of this family, dude, I swear half of this video is going to be Ranger pets, and I love it. Half of the members of this family have more healing power. Juvenile White Moa is now a support type. And they're going to come back to that. The Juvenile White Moa now can give Frost Aura to allies. So a little bit of caffeine-free diet Tempest there. Peck and more power coefficient. Harmonic. I'm going to pause here for a second just to say, they mentioned in the interview, they're trying to make it to where any pets you use, if you're like, oh, I need to immobilize, I'll bring a spider, but man, this is going to suck. A spider does no damage. They don't want you to feel that way. I don't know if they're going to be successful, but they want it to, if you bring a pet for a certain task, you shouldn't feel like you just lost 80% of your pet damage because it's a bad pet. That's what they're hoping for. All right, Harmonic Cry, reduce the cooldown, increase the base healing, increase the healing power scaling by 5 times. Frenzied Attack, increase the power coefficient per hit by double. Protective Screech gives you protection from the blue Moa, reduce the cooldown by 4 seconds. Again, putting it into that area where it will not proc Invigorating Bond on reliability. If they can fix that, then that would be awesome. That'd be more protection uptime. Icy Screech on the White Moa now gives Frost Aura to allies. Dazing Screech on the Pink Moa reduces the cooldown. It can now daze enemies in a circle around the Moa instead of in a cone. Increase the daze duration from 2 seconds to 3 in PvE. Furious Screech on the red one, it reduces the cooldown from 25 to 20. I think it just gives fury to the party. Harmonic Cry, increase the base healing from 1300 to 1900. Again, we just talked about Harmonic Cry, so I'm guessing one of these is Soul Beast and one is not. Porcine, that's piggies. Members of this family now have 600 healing power, and Juvenile Pig is now ferocious. Pigs all have the forage skill where they dig up a random item from the ground. I say random, but each one has a pool of items. Like the Syamoth is the only one that had a chance to dig up a glob of ectoplasm, which is, for many years, it was awesome in PvP. People would just keep doing forage, ecto, and then they would crush it, and then they would get every boon in the game for like 5 seconds, and then they would try to light someone up during that time. But not all, but the others had different things, like Boar can dig up bones. The others can't do that, I think. Jab, more damage. Maul, reduce cooldown. Brutal Charge, reduce cooldown in PvE. Forage on Boar always gives a rock. I got a rock. Forage on Warthog always gives a scale. Reduce the cooldown from 30 to 25, reduce the weakness duration from 10 to 6, increase the bleeding and poison stacks from 1 to 3, reduce the poison duration from 20 to 6, and the bleeding duration from 10 to 6. So they're each going to be reliable, but for a different thing. Siamoth always forages feathers. Reduces the cooldown from 30 to 25. I haven't used a foraging pet so long. I think the feathers might blind an enemy. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it might do a blind. Like you just throw feathers in their face. Forage on pig will always forage a great sword. I hope it looks like the wolf that holds the great sword in its teeth from Dark Souls. The great sword can be thrown. Reduce the cooldown from 30 to 25 seconds. So you could just yeet the great sword. Chat says, I think the feathers is stealth. Okay, thank you. And does anyone know where I can find the previews with the pictures? Yeah, Era, I got you. Hang on just a second. I am actually going to pin this at the top of chat just so everybody can see it. Let's do that. And I'm going to do it over on the other chat as well. For those who don't know, I'm currently streaming on YouTube and Twitch right now. And I am for every day going forward. Okay, there we go. So if anyone else asks, just say it's pinned at the top of chat. Hey, Essence of Luck, we got an ANET developer in the chat. Hey, thank you. Okay, so we finished with that. Spider family. So again, spiders and devourers probably saw the least gameplay of all the pet families in the game. Like in every single game mode combined. All right, spider auto attack. Increase the power coefficient from 0.44 to 0.57 in PvE. Increase the velocity. Entangling web. Reduce the duration from 3 to 2 in competitive. Increase velocity. Poison gas. Reduce the cooldown from 20 to 15 in PvE. And increase the poison duration from 4 to 6 in PvE. Increase the number of targets from 3 to 5. I would like a reminder. Does this one make a field, I think? Spit a ball of venom that covers an area with a poison cloud. Yes, this makes a poison combo field. Yeah, so the velocity, this one was interesting because when you used this, I don't know if I can show it without a target dummy, and I don't want to spend time. No, I can't. I remember it would go like thump, 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 thump. It was like that slow. So it was like on a still target, it would hit. On a moving target, never. Never. It was like the siege turtle pet. It would not connect. So this increased velocity is probably going to be one of the best parts of it. Okay. Deadly venom from a forest spider. Reduce the cooldown from 30 to 20 seconds. Increase the poison stacks and reduce the poison duration from 12 to 6, but reduce the poison venom duration from 30 to 20. Weakening venom on cave spider. Basically the same treatment. Paralyzing venom on jungle spider. Reduce immobilize. It basically makes the spider's next few attacks immobilize the enemy. It's reduce the cooldown from 45 to 25. Reduce the immobilize duration from 3 to 2 in competitive. Reduce the venom duration from 30 to 20. That's still pretty good. 25-second cooldown, 20-second duration to use it. You could almost just I almost forgot it was a pet skill. I was about to say you could precast it like Sharpening Stone and almost always use it, but that way it's pet skill. I often can't do that. If you're untamed, you could precast it before the fight. Entangling Web reduces the immobilized duration from 3 to 2 in competitive, increased velocity, poison gas. Again, these are repeat notes. Probably one of these are Soul Beast. Bristleback, are everyone's favorite Pinecone. Spike Shoot, increase the power coefficient from 0.3 to 0.31 in PvE. Okay. Rain of Spikes, increase power coefficient from 0.4 to 0.5. Increase bleeding stacks from 1 to 2. This skill can now only hit a target once. This one is when the shakes and then just like literally a rain of spikes goes out and it just hits everything around it. So that's cool. Sharpen Spikes, reduce cooldown from 30 to 20. It's basically Sharpening Stone, but it's for the Bristleback. Fun random fact for Ranger newbies: if you're a Soul Beast, you merge with the Bristleback, you can use its Sharpening Stone on you and your Sharpening Stone on you and have double Sharpening Stone. Then you do something like Warhorn 4, which attacks with a bunch of birds, and you'll just slap an enemy with 15 stacks of bleeding in a second. It's very much an all or nothing thing. If they don't have a Condi cleanse, they're dead. If they do, you just used a lot of resources. You're all in. Spike Barrage, increase the cooldown from 15 to 20, but the skill now inflicts bleeding when striking an enemy. Ooh, that could be juicy. Spike Barrage hits 10 times. So, for those who've never seen it, this is my pet Pinecone. I'm going to bring him over here for a second. Spike Barrage is this. He goes, and he just fires a whole bunch. It was hard to see there, but he just fired 10 shots. So in PvP, I can often only land that on someone who's downstate. But that means that there's I would assume 10 applications of bleeding being added to that. That's kind of neat. Rain of Spikes. Again, this is a repeat note. I'm guessing one of these are for Soul Beast. Smoke Scale. Bite. The power coefficient increased from 0.25 to 0.56 in PvE. So its auto attack damage will be doubled in PvE. Takedown. Reduce the cooldown by half, but people that hate Ranger, don't worry. They've taken away the knockdown. Increase the power coefficient from 0.01 to 0.5. 50 times in competitive. So that skill was a knockdown that did no damage. Now, it is no longer a CC at all, but it does damage. Now, it wasn't doing much damage before, but the coefficient is now 50 times what it was. We'll see. We'll see. Now, for anyone who's like, oh my god, I play Ranger, I like Smoke Scale, they're nerfed it, it's useless now, it's not. Because of its a Smoke Assault skill where it teleports onto the enemy, it is one of the only pets that can reliably do any damage to an enemy that's running around like crazy because of the Smoke Assault. Or if you're a Soul Beast, you can merge and you could do Smoke Assault too. And also it gives you the Smoke Field, which allows you to do combos and go invisible, which you're not going to get that from any other pet. So yes, we will mourn the loss of Knockdown. I use Smoke Scale as well when I PvP. It's still going to be a solid selection. But yeah. Again, repeat note, probably for Soul Beast. Wyverns. Wing Buffet. This skill now properly indicates that it applies the launch control of... Okay, that's just a text fix. Consuming Flame on Wyvern. Reduce the cooldown by 10 seconds and increase the burning duration from 2 to 3 seconds. This is an interesting one, especially for me. All of these are really interesting to me. But this one, if you look at this, you activate it. Pet goes invulnerable, so that'll save it. Long animation. The damage starts after a while, and then about now, it becomes a combo field. You see the ring appear? It's a combo field way after it starts. It's interesting, because the pet's not attacking, so it's lost its auto attack damage. And the damage it does with the fire is fair, but it hits a wide area, and it's a fire field that your whole team can use. And the pet's invulnerable during that. So if you're in PvE, your pet just lost aggro and the mobs are punching you in the face if you're in open world. But if you're in PvP, you might have saved its life. So there's a lot of factors to think about. It's very unique in that regard. I would have liked to see the animation be faster, but it is what it is. Tail Lash is just a damage skill. Its power coefficient is being increased. Wing Buffet, the skill now properly indicates it applies launch. Okay, again, same thing as there. Fanged Iboga. This is a glass cannon pet that does some of the highest condition. Like if you just have your pet attacking and you go AFK, none of them do incredible damage. They're not meant to. They're not the Mechanist mech. But the Iboga probably does the most. Maybe I think it might be Iboga Jacaranda. But it is glass. It also has one of the only pulls a Ranger has with its pull. Okay, Consuming Bite. The auto attack on an Iboga scales with how many conditions the enemy has. This will now scale with a maximum of 5 conditions. That's because if it was hitting a world boss that had like 30 conditions on it, it actually did some damage. Increase the base power coefficient from 0.2 to 0.45 in PvE, double. Reduce the bonus power coefficient by a bit in PvE, 0.03 to 0.025. Crippling Anguish, one of its spammy skills, increase the cooldown from 5 to 10, increase the power coefficient from 0.1 to 0.3, increase the torment stacks from 1 to 3 in PvE and 1 to 2 in competitive, reduce the torment duration from 10 to 6 in competitive, increase the confusion duration from 2 to 3 in competitive, but increase velocity. So it is going to fire the bullet much faster. Narcotic Spores. This is now an ethereal field. That's neat. I mentioned this earlier. The Reef Drake's Underwater F2 is the only ethereal field the Ranger class had. Not that it was a, you could have a Ranger World v World dip into the water and do a Chaos combo for a second. This means that a Ranger can do Mesmer Chaos Field combos if they know what they're doing on land now, in any game mode. So if you are just love some chaos auras, you find those fun, you can actually line that up now. So I don't think that's going to be busted or like change the meta or anything, but it's interesting, so it makes me smile. And then we've got repeat notes probably for Soul Beast. All right, Jacaranda. Juvenile Jacarandas have 1200 healing power. Fix an issue that causes pet to have more health than intended. I would really like to know how much. Jacaranda is definitely busted, but in a weird way. It has some of the highest health and toughness of any pet, like a tank pet, like a bear, but it also has a self-heal skill, and it also calls down lightning, and the lightning damage does so much damage, it makes it second place in damage right behind the Iboga. But the Iboga is glass. The Jacaranda is the perfect open world pet. It's your tank, it's a self-healing tank, and it does really high DPS that cleaves, as long as the target's not moving. If the target's moving around, it's terrible, because the lightning stays in one spot. In PvP, if you've got an enemy Necro that's downstate and he's spamming the one skill to drain life, you can send your Jacaranda after it, it'll win. Most pets will lose. Most pets will lose to the downstate Necro because it'll drain life and kill them. The Jacaranda Lightning will win. So I'm wondering, did this pet have a little bit more health than intended, or did it have like triple the health that they intended? Because it is a very loaded pet. Also, it has Immobilize if you've ever been caught in Jacaranda roots in PvP. Rock Gazelle, increase the power coefficient of Headbutt slightly. Charge, increase the cooldown from 15 to 20. This skill now tracks its target more accurately and stops upon reaching the target. Thank God. Oh my God. For years, here's the target, here's the Gazelle, and it'd be like, do, I'm hitting, charge, off screen. Comes running back, bonk, bonk, charge, comes walking back, bonk, bonk, charge. It would constantly go flying off the screen and come walking back and waste so much time. It did very low DPS because it spent so much time running off into the sunset like the end of a Western. And I'm glad to see this, okay? All right, Phoenix. The pet. Okay, the Phoenix was not really useful in any game mode. This pet's health has been increased. Wicked Bite does slightly more damage. The pet's now, the skill can now cause the pet to move slightly, so can probably better at hitting a moving target. Gale Breath now only performs one sweep. Increase the power coefficient from 0.5 to 0.8. Anyone here who's never seen the Phoenix pet and you're like, what the heck is he talking about? It's this. Big laser thing, it does that. Now, this whole time, it's not auto-attacking. So you've lost your auto-attack damage and gained this other attack that's doing this. And unless you're right in front of it getting hit with the whole thing, it did very low damage because it would just hit you once and then pass you, and then it's not hitting you at all. So they're making it take less time and do more damage. Something about Soul Beast. Wallow. Again, a pet from End of Dragons that was seeing no play in any game mode. This pet's health has been increased. Vampiric Bite now does a hair more damage of PvE, longer attack range. Undead Plague reduces the cooldown by 10 seconds. Bloodthirsty Charge reduces the cooldown by 5 seconds. And some Soul Beast stuff. Siege Turtle. Jade Cannon increased the rate of fire and projectile speed. Reduce the power coefficient from 0.75 to 0.53 in PvE only. Heavy Shot, the skill replaces Snap. Snap was a turtle bite, but because he was a ranged pet, he would only ever use it if something walked up to him. He would never use it on his own. Shoot a Jade Missile at your target that will daze AoE CC. Slam replaces Jade Cannon when merged. Apparently, it was not intended that if you merge with Phoenix, Wallow, or Siege Turtle, you got their auto attack skill, which was kind of funny with the turtle because you could basically you could do like a throw an energy ball thing and be like a human mortar. Not a very effective one. People like to claim it was good in World v World and it looked fun. You didn't really do any damage, but they've taken that away. So now Turtle gives Heavy Shot to Soul Beast, Wallow gets Undead Plague and Maul, and Phoenix gets Dash. Revenant. Oh, we're finally out of Ranger. Okay, Revenant. This build focuses on improving Revenant's shortbow, shield, and hammer weapons. We've made piercing part of the shortbow's base attacks. All shortbow skills pierce now, making it more appealing to non-renegades. The shield changes improve its usability for support builds, while hammer's gotten some improvements to both its damage and defensive capabilities. Hammer Bolt increased power coefficient slightly in PvE. Coalescence of Ruin increased the damage area. Adjusted the damage areas to begin at the player's location instead of being offset from it. Increased the power coefficient from 1.75 to 2.0 in PvE, and increased the cooldown from 10 to 7 in PvP. Phase Smash increased power coefficient slightly in PvE. Field of the Mist now grants Aegis to the Revenant on activation and will fire a projectile at up to 5 enemies around the target. The projectile destruction wall now activates immediately. So that's a very different. That's quite a bit different in functionality. Drop the Hammer, increase power coefficient from 2.3 to 2.7 in PvE, and increase the knockdown duration from 2 to 3 seconds in PvE and PvP, not World v World. Envoy of Exuberance. This skill now grants, this is Shield 4, I believe. It is a very good skill for if you're a support herald and someone in your group suddenly dips in health. This is one of the first skills you use to try to get their health back up. It is a healing skill and a cooldown. The skill will now grant protection to all allies at impact point instead of when the projectile passes through them. The impact now also grants Aegis to allies. Increase the missile velocity slightly and increase the healing coefficient by double. Crystal Hibernation, your shield 5, which I believe before was just an invuln or block or both. This skill will now also heal allies that are near you. So buffs to support shield users of Rev. Scattershot, Bloodbane Path, 7-shot pierces. These are all just short bow skills. They now have pierce baseline. Inspiring Reinforcement, increase the duration of the initial stability from 1 second to 1.5 seconds in PvP, and increase the duration of pulsing stability from 1 to 1.25 in PvP. Okay, so that's the road from Dwarf that does pulsing stability. They found that the stability was wearing off like a millisecond before the new stability was applied. So you could just be standing on the road, which is supposed to give you a stack of stability every second, and something could run up and stun you if it landed on that millisecond between the wear off and the application, which was not the intent. So they did this to give it a teeny tiny bit of overlap. Spiritual Resolution. This trait now activates when invoking a legend instead of when using an elite skill. Set in Stone, this trait replaces Eye for an Eye. Gain protection when you use Profession Skill 2. Contained Temper has been reworked. You gain energy when you break out of a stun. Herald. Forceful Persistence will increase the damage bonus from 15% to 20% in PvE only. Increase the bonus damage per Herald upkeep skill from 5% to 7% in PvE. Renegade Bold Reversal has been reworked. It now gives you resistance when you use a heal. Heart Piercer no longer causes shortbow skills to pierce. That's because they gave it to all shortbow for free, so people that aren't a Renegade can get the pierce. Vindicator Reaver's Curse has been reworked. Reduces the energy cost of Energy Meld. Energy Meld enhances the effect of your next dodge. Angcian's Trust. This trait has been reworked. Energy Meld no longer has an energy cost and grants energy when you use it. Song of Arboreum. This trait has been reworked. Energy Meld grants more energy and also grants its energy and vigor to nearby allies. Someone in my chat says that should say endurance, not energy, so that might have been an error. Hey. Chip just woke up and walked in. Thief. The improvements to Staff are focused on Debilitating Arc and Dust Strike to give these skills a more unique identity and application. Pistol is also being tuned up to make it a more viable option for condition-focused builds of PvE. So, Pistol Vital Shot, increase the bleeding duration from 4 to 6 seconds of PvE. Shadow Strike, increase the torment stacks from 2 to 4 in PvE. Increase repeater effect duration from 4 to 10 in PvE. And from 4 seconds to 5 seconds of PvP in World v World. Alright, now chat's saying energy is correct on that earlier thing. Increase the repeater effect stacks from 1 to 3 in PvE. And from 1 to 2 in competitive. The effect now causes the repeater skill to cost 1 less initiative, and 1 stack of the effect is consumed when using repeater. Unload. Reduce the initiative cost from 5 to 3. Fans of Pistol Unload, or PP Unload as it used to be called, are going to rejoice because, oh my god, it just got a lot spammier. Bountiful Theft. This trait now grants additional might to allies when stealing from a target with no boons. They felt like when you steal on someone that had no boons, it wasn't good enough, so they're doing this. Haste. Reduce the cooldown from 24 to 20 seconds in PvE and from 35 seconds to 30 seconds in competitive. Blinding Powder. Cooldown cut in half in PvE. Daredevil. Punishing Strikes no longer reflects projectiles. So this was Staff 1, and this was a reason that some raids hated having a Staff Daredevil there. I think it was Cairn, because they would screw things up by reflecting projectiles when they wasn't wanted. They have moved the reflect to Dust Strike, which will now reflect projectiles and strike foes in a circular area instead of a frontal cone. So 1, you can choose when you want to reflect. It's not spammy. And 2, it's easier to land because it's a radius around you. Debilitating Arc, when you use it, it now flips over and becomes a skill called Helmet Breaker. Helmet Breaker leaps at your foe doing damage and inflicting the dazed effect. Now, debilitating arc makes you roll backwards, and helmet breaker makes you leap forward, so you bounce out, bounce in, which means a lot of you guys using this are going to die on Mersat Overseer, just like the Mesmers that use Continuum Split. Impact Strike will now evade attacks, increase the cooldown from 25 to 30 seconds in competitive. Spectre, Well of Gloom, increase the base healing from 336 to 520 in competitive, and Well of Silence, increase the cooldown from reduce the cooldown from 35 to 30 in competitive. God dang. Sorry, these are long notes. My vision's starting to blur. Warrior, the last class, thank God. Berserker's improvements will make it easier to maintain... I'm going to tell you right now, there's some good stuff in here. To maintain Berserk mode in PvE encounters, and lower cooldown make it less punishing to fall out of Berserk mode. We've also improved the critical hit focus side of the arm specialization and tuned up a handful of underperforming skills and traits. Crushing Blow. Increase power coefficient from 1.5 to 2.25 in PvE and from 1.5 to 1.75 in competitive. Increase might stacks from 3 to 5, reduce the cooldown from 15 to 12. So you're going to hit harder and more often. Tremor, reduce the cooldown from 18 seconds in all game modes. To 18 seconds in all game modes. Increase the power coefficient slightly in PvE. Dolyak Signet, base healing almost doubled. Signet of Stamina now also grants 10 endurance per condition it removes off of you. Notes were so long the map shard closed. Yup. Vengeance. Increase the chance to revive from 25% to 100%. In PvE. Oh, now look, this doesn't even bother me. In PvP, this would be busted. But in PvE, when you're just minding your business and you're on your own, you're having fun, you are going to get back up, and you are going to keep just rage on, warriors, rage on. You are going to get back up. Opportunist. This trait will now also trigger when disabling an enemy. Reduce the cooldown from 10 seconds to 1 second. Reduce the Fury duration from 10 seconds to 3. Furious Burst. This trait no longer grants Fury when using a burst skill, but instead grants Fury when weapon swapping. Reduce the cooldown from 15 seconds to 4, and reduce the Fury duration from 5 seconds to 2.5. Deep Strikes. This trait now also grants 5% increased critical strike chance against bleeding enemies in PvE, and 10% increased critical strike chance against bleeding enemies in PvP and World v World. Burst Precision now also grants 100% crit chance and 150 veracity for 2, 3, or 4 seconds based on your adrenaline when you strike with a burst skill. I don't know if what I'm about to say is a good idea. This is just an idea. There's been many popular builds with Ranger that relied on Valkyrie, which had Valkyrie stats, which had low precision but high ferocity. So you did crit often, but when you crit, it hit hard. Then they would use Sigil of Intelligence, so after weapon swap, they would get 3 crits. This reminds me of that. So if you were just if you were built with like Valkyrie type stats, and then you use Burst Precision, you do a burst skill, it doesn't hit very hard, and then you get guaranteed 100% crit chance, and then you just hit all your hardest hitting skills, I think that's going to just blow somebody up. And heck, you can do Sigil of Intelligence on top of that to weapon swap and then get 3 more guaranteed crits that hit like a truck. Love to see someone try that idea, maybe Captain Crapface, but I don't know if it sounds good in my head. I don't know if it'll work out, but someone try that, let me know how it works. Aggressive Onslaught. This trait now also grants 2 stacks of might for 6 seconds. Increase the movement speed bonus from 25 to 33%. Increase the quickness duration from 2 to 3 seconds in competitive. Hey, Style Drop It. Thank you, buddy. Soldier's Focus. Increase heal attribute scaling from 0.8 to 1.0. Increase the protection duration from 2.5 seconds to 4 seconds in PvE, and from 2.5 seconds to 3 seconds in competitive. Vengeful Return. This trait has been reworked and renamed to Stalwart Focus. Increase the incoming healing effectiveness and outgoing healing to allies. Heightened Focus. This trait now also grants... this trait will now also recharge all burst skills when it activates. Reduce the cooldown from 15 seconds to 12 seconds. So, yeah, a lot of people are saying that these changes are possibly in preparation for a heal warrior. Maybe the new warrior staff coming is going to have some support skills. Don't know. But they have said multiple times during these patch note broadcasts that they've done that they want the support warrior to be an offensive support, not as much of a defensive support, but these are defensive-ish changes. Berserker Berserk, increased duration from 15 seconds to 20 in PvE, and reduce cooldown from 15 seconds to 8 in PvE. So if you are a berserking enjoyer, the uptime of your berserk mode just went way up. Smash Brawler no longer extends Berserk's duration by a flat amount, but instead causes any Primal Burst skills to extend the duration by 2 seconds in PvE and 1 second in PvP in World v World when you strike an enemy, but once per skill. So if you burst and hit 5 enemies, it's only going to proc once. Decapitate will extend Berserk mode by 1 second in PvE. Heat the Soul no longer has an internal cooldown. Reduce the quickness duration from 4 seconds to 3 in PvE. Decapitate grants 2 seconds of quickness. So Heat the Soul is grant quickness to nearby allies when you use a burst, but it had a 5-second cooldown. And so it was really clunky to use. It did not feel good to use. I tried it once and I was like, I'm not playing this. And I know some other people try to make it work, but it is awful. So although the quickness duration is going down, the fact that it's losing the internal cooldown is going to make it so much more usable. I'll let warrior mains figure out if this is enough to make them a reliable 100% uptime. I think it will be, but I'll let other people that know it better do the math. But whew, that is it. That's the last thing. So I think there is some stuff getting nerfed, but there's a lot more getting buffed. And I think there's some stuff for everybody to look forward to. As a ranger main, I'm very interested to do so much testing with all the new pets, because literally some of these pets have not been like touched in 10 years. There's a lot of crazy stuff. Don't forget relics. Relics was like the very first thing we did. Relics was way up here at the top. We did go over that. Let me see. Was there anything on here that wasn't on what we just did? No. I think we went over all the relics. They were first on the list at the bottom. Wait, what are you guys freaking out about? Hang on a second. Warrior, Berserker. That's it. Berserker's the last note. Hold on a sec. New relic at bottom. Warrior. Bottom of wiki. This is the bottom of the wiki. There's nothing below this. They did show... Okay, hold on a second. Refresh. Okay, I'm refreshing. Hang on. You are correct. Some new relics were added. I had to F5 the page. So they were added later. They weren't added at the same time. Thank you. All right. So there are some new relics that are being added at the same time on top of the relics that were getting patched and changed. New relics include Relic of Naos, which removes a condition from yourself. From yourself heals you? What? Okay, hold on. Let me see if it's phrased differently here. No, it's not. Okay, let's go back to this. Relic of Fabay, and they did say Fabay on the stream. When you use a healing skill, you grant nearby allies swiftness and remove movement impairing conditions from them. Wait, that's not what they said during the broadcast. I swear during the broadcast what they said was when you give an ally swiftness, you would do a movement impairment cleanse. Is this written wrong? Hang on a sec. Let's do...
Lurking.
I had to watch Laura's thing. Okay, new relics. Here we go. Back up. Because they... Okay, here... That's it. That's Caracosa. Come on. Relic of Naos. Okay. No, that is what it says. When you use a healing skill, grant nearby ally swiftness and remove a movement impairing condition from them. Okay, I guess I'm remembering wrong. All right, well, we fact-checked myself. All right, when you use a healing skill, grant nearby ally swiftness and remove a movement impairing condition from them. Relic of Caracosa is heal other allies when you successfully combo field with a blast finisher. It's possible that Support Scrapper could get some use out of this because they do a lot of blast finishers. Relic of Norris, grant stacks of Norris's Hunger every interval when you remove boons from enemies. When you consume 10 stacks to grow larger, doing increased damage, taking reduced damage, and converting a percentage of outgoing damage into healing. Imagine how scary that would be, having a Spellbreaker chasing you and slapping your boons off and getting bigger while doing it. I'd be screaming. Relic of the Midnight King. It's sort of scrolled off here. Relic of the... my page is being weird here. Okay. 1 second. Let me just do this, and I'm just going to pull this window out and crop it and bring it over here. Okay. Here we go. Relic of the Midnight King. Grant might and fury to nearby allies when you disable an enemy. And a Relic of the Demon Queen. Poison that you apply reduces healing by an additional amount. And anytime you disable a foe, you apply poison. So I think in PvP, any poison-heavy builds from like Thief or possibly Rangers are going to want to try this out and see how this goes. Okay, I think that's everything. After refreshing the patch notes, that is the last line that I see. I'm actually going to lose my voice. All right, with that is everything we know about what they introduced today. Again, another reminder that these changes. If you have a problem about it or you foresee a problem, make a post on the forums and maybe they'll read it. And these go live on November. Is it 28th? I think November 28th, right? Hold on a sec. I'm double checking once again. Yes, these are November 28th changes. So any questions, problems, thoughts, concerns, anything like that, post them down below. And I'll see y'all when I know more.